Start again. Oh, hello. Oh, we have to turn that off. Been sitting here for 10 minutes. Right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Planning Committee from Town Council. I'm Steve Tanner, I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. As ever, we want to make our meetings available to as many people as possible, regardless of where they are. So the usual hybrid setup here in the Town Hall chamber and online via Zoom. For those in the room, the usual housekeeping, emergency to the rear of the corner, and the assembly point is the car park, toilets over in the corner as well. Any panelists on Zoom, electronic recommend by clicking the assistance button at the bottom of your screen. For those in the room, please raise your hand as ever. Any Zoom, those questions enabled, your names will be visible on the questions board for the record as your question is answered. Tonight, Jane and Catherine will clerk and Hannah will manage the questions board and participant settings. Meeting will be recorded for monitoring purposes and we will also be live streamed on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda. Any questions, comments, information from public and or councillors? One at a time, please. No, right, good, excellent. Moving on swiftly. Item number 3, agree any apologies for absence received. I think we have apologies from Polly. Yeah. Great, excellent. And we have to vote on that. All right, good, thank you. That's all agreed. Any declaration of members' interests? Sure, we've all read the new declaration of interests and studied it and fully understand it. Good. Thank you, Jane. I've got to yes. Right. Okay. Moving on then. Item number 5: to agree the minutes of the meeting of the 16th of February 2023, which I have in front of me. Any questions? Any clarifications? If not, if someone could propose those for me, please. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Andy. That's unanimous. If you could pass those down to Hannah, please, Fiona, that'd be great because I always take them home with me. Item number 6: to consider major plan applications received. Over to Catherine tonight.
Yeah, there we go. Right. I've got the mic on now. There we go. Right, the first. There we go. Goodness. Right, now I'm ready. Sorry. Right.
How have you been doing this?
Only 6 months. The first one we're going to look at is number 180, 43 Inox Hill in Frome. It's a single-storey side extension, demolishing the existing extension with a new single-storey extension, roof to be raised at the rear, and some internal alterations. So this is the existing site location and the existing roof plan in context. And this is the snip from Google Maps because I thought it showed it just a bit better than the drawings. This is the existing plan, so you can see it's quite. I think they've had previous extensions, and it's all doesn't have very good permeability. And this is the existing first floor, so it's just an open loft bedroom space. Existing elevations. The red line's the ground line, I think. And from the side, so it is a bit higgledy-piggledy. And this is what they're proposing instead. So it's a much neater plan. It's better generally. And again, better use of the upstairs room. But to achieve this, they are raising the roof line by quite a bit, it looks like. So you can see that on the main elevations. And you can really see it on the side elevations. The existing roof line is shown in red with the proposed one obviously in black above it. And those are these sections through as well. Yeah.
What's the next cost?
Oops. So I said in my notes that I can't see any planning issues with demolishing the old extension or the replacement. I think it allows for a better plan. The house is set back from the road and it is in a very large plot. I think a site section would be useful just because houses at the rear, you can't really tell how they'd be impacted. Just this, just this one here, and the one, probably not that one, that's their garage. Just this one here, because you can't tell if that's a garage at the rear or living space.
What direction is that? Is that north?
Yeah, I think, hang on. Yes. North.
Is that north?
No, so it probably wouldn't be that much of an issue, just and yes.
That whole bit is incredibly steep, isn't it? I mean, I walked up there and right.
The Civic Society have said they've got no objections.
From what I remember of and what I could see of all these houses, even the ones at the back, because it's so steep, they're going to look straight over the top from what I could
So are they higher?
work out.
Are the houses at the back higher?
I think, I'm not sure the one that you just pointed out, I can't remember seeing that one.
Because
I think the other ones are.
So I read it that they were lower. So
Ah.
in which case, if Steve's right, disregard everything I
Right,
said.
unless I was looking at the wrong bit, which is eminently possible.
That's in Hill, and this down here is lower in our.
Perhaps I was looking at the wrong bit. Ignore what I just said.
I can remember it slopes from, as we look at the map, it slopes from Innett's Hill and the site towards the river.
So these houses are lower.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it might have an impact then. Okay, good. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
The fact that nobody knows, I think, is a perfect reason to request a site section so that there's
Yeah.
no doubt.
There aren't any comments on the application that I can see online from anyone. And it does say consultee list. Just checking, see whether people have been. Looks like they've all been.
The houses in
contacted.
this bit are all very, very different, aren't they? In the whole of Innox Hill, I mean, it's a real
Yeah, they're-
hodgepodge of different styles, and which probably is why no one's objected, I would have thought, because most houses there have been either demolished and rebuilt or at least extended too significantly over the years, haven't they?
right. That one's been extended previously, and that's why.
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
why.
good.
I don't know if it helps for context, but Innox Hill, in my youth,
Here we go.
here we go,
Let me get myself comfy.
lamp coming over. If you go up Innox Hill, those houses, like the big bungalows,
Mm,
their gardens ran down to the river. There
yeah,
was never the road along the river there is now at Lower Innox.
yeah,
And so everything you see below you, like the car park and the other houses, have been built subsequently on the gardens of those houses, which were, I don't think compulsory purchase, but they certainly sold off to local authority for housing.
Yeah.
And so the topography of it is they are on Innox Hill and everything else falls away quite well below it. So if anything, they're overlooking the ones below them rather than
mm.
doing that.
Any other-
Right. Are you proposing?
Any other comments, questions? Any other thoughts? No, I haven't got a problem with it either.
Excellent.
I'm going to propose no objection on that one. Sorry, Jane. I propose no objection. Yeah, great, thank you.
Brilliant. Let's see.
Thanks, Catherine.
You're welcome. The next one is 8 Selwood Road. Demolish the existing rear outbuilding, erect a single-story extension, replace the windows with timber sashes, install roof lights, and add a garden building. So this is the site plan. So you can see it's on the left-hand side of Selwood Road. What was I going to say? Oh, they've already sought pre-application advice from the Mendip Conservation Officer. And they're mainly restoring previous unsympathetic works because someone's used cement mortar all over the front of it and it's wrecking the stone. This is the existing plans. So there's already a long extension for the kitchen with a pitched roof, which they are, which you can see in the elevation to the right, my right, your left. That section doesn't show much. And this is what they're proposing to replace it with. So cover across the whole of the yard with a flat roof, roof lights. They are retaining the garden, so they'll be covering over some of the yard, but there still will be garden space for well, amenity and bins, etc. They are proposing as well solar panels on the roof, as well as 2 conservation roof lights. And I think the house is very tall and the street is very narrow, so I don't the roof, and I don't think it would have that much of an impact. But I do think the roof lights and the solar panels are a lot. I think it might end up looking a bit of a mess, and it'll be very crowded, especially because the roofs, they're quite shallow pitches. And I don't really see the necessity of the roof lights having 4 in the loft. I think they could lose the roof lights and have the solar panels, or vice versa. Yeah. But the Civic Society have said they are objecting, but just to the PV array and the 2 additional Veluxes. They think that will have, the amount will be a detrimental impact on the conservation area, and so should be omitted. And that whole terrace was identified by Francis Kelly, Historic England Inspector, as buildings of local interest, which I thought was just interesting for you.
Great, thanks, Catherine. Just to sort of narrow the conversation down, are we happy with everything apart from the roof? So can we just have a discussion about, does that make sense?
Yeah, Catherine, Jane and I have been looking in that area a lot this week. And when I first saw this, I was alarmed it was going to be similar to something we've been dealing with, which is still rumbling. And a lot of that is being about building in back gardens. This has a building in the back garden. It's tempered with a sedum roof, and it actually backs onto a car park. So we're not as worried about that. But I share the concerns of the Civic Society and others about the PVA array and the front skylights. I think that is detrimental to the street scene in a conservation area.
Right, thanks, Mark.
I disagree. I don't think we should be doing anything to stop anyone putting solar panels on roofs. I think everyone we need them. It's clean energy. It's cost of living crisis, and I don't even mind about the roof lights it lets light in. I just don't think we should be putting any barriers in the way of solar panels.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else got any thoughts?
When this is warmed up. Yeah, I think both is too much, but I do think that if I had to make a choice, I'd go for the solar panels rather than the extra Phillips.
Just to put a little bit of context, we did actually, if you recall, see the Rise, is it the Rise building? Not that long ago, and they wanted to put solar panels on, and we were very much in favour of that, to the point where we went to Mendip and spoke in favour of putting solar panels on that building.
But those are hidden, aren't they?
They are hidden, and I think this is, that is a key here, isn't it? Are these visible from the street?
Yeah.
They would be visible from the street. Right, okay.
But are we protecting the past or securing the future? Like,
Okay, yeah.
I understand it's a conservation area. I just don't think that outweighs it.
Okay. Yep, I hear what you say. I tend to agree with what Andy said. I think one or the other, and I would sooner them having the PV than the roof lights. I think as Catherine said, if they've got roof lights at the rear, why do they need roof lights at the front?
Because it's an open loft, and also if they decide in the future that they want to get rid of the roof lights, that's a lot of work to repair the roof and make it as if it had never happened. Whereas to take the solar panels off, you take them off and you
Yeah.
replace the 4 tiles
the
that were
roof.
drilled in.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Lisa.
Just to say the reason that they probably have those roof lights in the front is because that's south facing where the sun comes, or else they wouldn't have the solar panels in the front. So it probably is that extra bit of light for the best place for the sun. But I agree, it should. My preference is one or the other, and I'd have to side with Fiona on that with solar.
Is there, Catherine, Jane Kelly, in terms of conservation area rules and regulations, I mean, are there any hard and fast planning rules about putting things on roofs? And
So I think in a conservation area, you can put them on the rear of buildings, and they are permitted development. It's when you want to put them on the front that they need permission. And the reason for that is so that it can be assessed what the impact on the character of the conservation area will be. So you wouldn't see it if you were walking along the street. You wouldn't see them if you walk along the street, but it did it when we were walking around in the area earlier in the week. Depending on where you are in whose garden, or even the next sort of street along, you sometimes the levels are different, so that they might be visible. I suppose we can't sit here and categorically say they won't be visible. But yeah, I think you have to balance that planning balance. Is it the renewable that we want to support, or is it the character of the conservation area?
That's southeast facing, by the way. I just checked.
okay,
That's why.
yeah, okay. I mean, we're sort of not far away, are we?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all, from what I can tell, we're all minded to say no to the Velux windows,
Yeah, but yes,
because they're too intrusive and they're destructive of the actual fabric of the building. And maybe we're guided by the conservation officer about the opportunity to position solar panels in this particular context. I mean, maybe losing the Velux windows, give them room to move and fire up or something like that. I don't know, but
It says they've had a pre-app, so did they,
Yeah.
has this been tested already?
Not sure, pre-apps are confidential, so it just says they've spoken. They said in their design and access statement that they'd spoken to a conservation officer and they'd done the pre-application with them. But what that advice was, we can't find out.
I would rather we didn't say anything about in terms of going to amend about the PV panels. I think we should support them. And I
yeah.
think, come on, we've got climate inequality awareness as one of our key objectives. Well, this isn't even on, I'm holding it. Yeah, I just think we should support them. I don't personally, the other roof lights don't bother me, but I understand the feeling of everyone else.
Narrowing down the conversation again, then, I think we're all pretty happy with PV panels. Would that be a correct assessment?
Yeah.
And it's a question of whether we want to object to the Velux or wait for the conservation officer's comments on the Velux.
Is it not my glamorous assistant? Does it not just have to be a
We could just say
conservation officer decision,
defer
really.
conservation officer if we want.
We know they've asked for a pre-app. We don't know the verdict of that. So this may have been tested and they've been told they can't have it and they're trying it here. But it would be interesting to know what that advice
In which case, no objection, subject to conservation officer would be the response.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I mean, you could say just leave it to the conservation officer, but I think everybody's kind of been quite clear that having both the Velux and the panels is too much. So you could say, we object on the basis that the solar panels and the roof lights would have an impact on the character of the conservation area. However, we would take the advice of the conservation officer as to what the level of that impact would be. Or you could say that you would prefer that the solar panels were relocated to the rear of the property. Right?
I think if they're saying they're southeast. Oh, I need another biscuit. I personally feel quite strongly that we shouldn't be objecting to anything to do with the solar panels. Like if we want to object to the roof lights, fine. But I don't, if the conservation officer is going to object to the PV panels, they're going to object to the PV panels. I don't think we need to. If anything, I'd like us to support the PV panels because I don't know, once you get one on, it could be, I know this is probably the last thing anyone wants to hear, but then you're setting a precedent and you could get panels all over the place and that would be great. You're looking at me in disgust and horror. Solar panels all over conservation area.
So are you proposing that as a response that you want other councillors to vote on?
I don't know, is that up to me?
If you want,
Anybody can-
I'm not sure what we've got on the table at the moment. We've got a proposal on the table already. Oh, sorry, Philip. No, I just want to make other points.
I was thinking about to say what Mark said is that they may well have gone to pre-app. We don't know what they've been told. They may well have just tried it on because that's, to me, that always seems sometimes the art of a planning application is that you put in for whatever and you see what you can get. I would like a point of clarification though, on Fiona's point. Is it, I'll put it as a question, is it our job to support or is it our job in planning just to either object or not object? And then if there are other bodies like a conservation officer, we'll have a look at it. The word support concerns me slightly.
We have wholeheartedly supported applications in the past. It's your decision as a committee as to whether or not you want to support something. And there's absolutely no reason why we can't say we want to support something.
But what I'm not clear about, are we saying we're supporting this? Or in Fiona's words, we're supporting the installation of solar panels wherever? That's why I think.
As a council, we support the installation of solar panels.
Okay.
So is there a wording around, much as we support the installation of solar panels, we feel that in this application, the combination of Velux windows and solar panels is too much, and therefore we object to the installation of the Velux windows?
As long as we object to the Velux windows and not the solar panels, that's fine by me. As long as it's clear that's what we're objecting to.
Appreciate the steps towards carbon neutrality or something like that.
If we look at it, and I know you won't be able to see this, so Catherine, would it be possible to kind of pull up an image of it? But I mean, it's that house there. As soon as Catherine gets up, answer that for a second.
You've got a
Sorry.
friend, by the way, Fiona.
Yeah, Catherine will pull it up in a minute, but you can see it is way taller than any of the rest. The houses across from it are quite squat in comparison. I don't know who would actually see the roof. You couldn't even see it from across the way. So, you know, you can see how short they are on the other side.
And you can see why they're putting panels on the roof this
Yeah.
side, because if the other side is just going to be in
Well,
shade.
it's that one. It's that house.
I'm still slow.
Don't worry.
Okay, maybe this is
I
a
think
bit
we're talking around an issue
hypothetical.
here,
No,
aren't
but
we?
if no one is going to see them,
Yeah.
why are we objecting?
Well, yeah.
Because isn't that now like a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it? Like if you put a load of stuff on a roof and no one can see it, what's the problem?
Except for if it leads to any precedent where people put
Just feel the
it anywhere and we can't hold it, our argument can't hold water.
I think the voice from the left. Go on.
Steve will remember we've had this run-in about buildings being affected, even if you can't see them. And we fought against that before now. And so in this example, if the Civic Society, as the protectors of the conservation area in many ways, would like to see nothing happen to these houses, and that's their right. I mean, got a lovely cocky lamp outside. We've said before, like we argue strongly for Rye Bakery, that if you can't see them from the road, that's not a problem. And they hid them in the eaves then in the dip. Yeah. This you can see from, particularly from a house we've been in this week, looking across the street, and from Baker Street, you can see up to it. I mean, I live 2 streets away, completely parallel with this. So you can see them. I wouldn't have any objection to them going on the back. As I say, it's overlooked by a car park, which was leveled houses back in the 70s. You will be able to see them, but there are a lot of restrictions in the conservation area, which is why it's a conservation area. I know photovoltaic panels have come since it was decreed to be a conservation area, but the general principle which the Civic Society stick to is you just can't attach anything to the fabric of a building in a conservation area. I mean, I wouldn't be allowed this on my house. My house is listed, so I can't have anything like that, much as I would like to have that. But Fiona's right. Where do we draw the line between a conservation area and trying to pursue the aims that we say we signed up for? But the point of which we fought against before is you can't do anything to a house in a conservation area, even if you can't see it. And we've argued against that in lots of cases.
Thanks, Mark. I think it brings us back to what Andy said a few minutes ago. In terms of a response is
Catherine worded it slightly.
Yeah. So Catherine, could you read out what Andy said, or what we've got at the moment? Did you get that?
I didn't write it down, but he said while we support the use of low carbon
PV panels. It could potentially look too. I'll reword this one. It would potentially look too busy on, and would object to the Velixes rather than the solar panels. Yeah. We think both is cluttered. We would much sooner have
detrimental to the
panels,
conservation roof line.
Yeah, than the Velux windows. Something like that. At the end of the day, I think what we're basically saying is that yes, we want the PV panels. We have no objection to the PV panels. We appreciate it's a conservation area, but these buildings have to be sort of updated. Otherwise they go derelict, which is what we have seen around the town where old buildings just become derelict because they're just not usable. But the Velux windows are a little bit cluttered on the roof line. So in terms of protecting the conservation area, we don't like.
They're intrusive to the fabric.
Yeah, because they're taking a hole in the roof. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So you're proposing that as our response to be voted on?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, sorry? Oh, yeah. But we should refer to the conversation. Conservation officer anyway. Yeah.
The conservation officer is going to have his opinion anyway, isn't he?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hopefully that'll be consistent across the whole area.
I think we start off, we say defer to conservation officer, but what we just said.
Yeah, there's just to me, there's just a difference between solar panels, which I haven't had anything.
Another biscuit.
There's a difference between solar panels, which aren't actually, they're not destroying the roof fabric. They're doing nothing to the roof fabric, and the Velux windows, which are. So it's about how the conservation area looks. I don't agree with that as an argument, but if it's about preserving it in its integrity, I get that. Maybe there's something in that. I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to propose what we've just said, okay, and then if it doesn't pass, then we'll carry on.
Yeah.
So
hold on, as long as it's supported, as long as it's not against a PV panel.
No, it's not. No.
Just
so that's 5 votes in favour. You need to ask if there's anybody who is against.
Do that because is there anyone who's voting against or abstaining? Okay.
I think I might abstain on this one.
Thank you, Mark. So that's a majority. Hannah.
Lovely.
We got there in the end. Right, moving on.
That's a Oh, this is the garden shed they had. Right, next one is 21 Brunel Way. It's a use of garages and extension as a self-contained annex. And this is a certificate of use existing. So here is the location plan, site plan, and it confused me no end because 21, the house is on Brunel Way. The extension, the garage goes around the side onto Charterhouse Drive. Okay, so this is what is existing. Sitting room, kitchen, 1 bedroom and a small shower room. It's the elevation of the garages. And this is the snip from, but it was a bit clearer. The drawings didn't have any contact. The drawings didn't have any context, so I thought this was a bit clearer to see what was going on. So they did previously apply for a certificate of use as a separate dwelling house in 2016. This was rejected because the garage shares services with and is in the curtilage of the main building. And that application found the development to be unlawful because it then contrived the conditions of the planning application, which is that the garage must be used for parking. It's been in use as accommodation since 2011. And I've suggested that should the planning officer accept it, say it's lawful, approve the certificate, a condition should be attached that it remains ancillary to the main house, because as you can see, they are separate. It's not an attached garage, so it could theoretically be rented out separately. I believe at the moment it's rented out to their granddaughter. Their granddaughter, I think, or a relative anyway.
So, sorry, what are they asking? They're asking that it's a change of use from.
So they're asking for a certificate that says that the garage is a legal conversion to a house, to residential.
So just for my understanding, the fact that it's been used as residence since 2011, did you say?
Yes.
Does that mean that they just have a right to override the fact that they contravene their own planning regulations? Because, you know, if the garage was meant to be used as a garage, it's meant to be used as a garage. There should be a bloody car in it.
Do you want me to respond to that one?
Yeah, go on.
So effectively, it would have been a change of use. So if somebody has a change of use and they've been operating that way for 10 years, after that point, it becomes unenforceable. But the lawful development existing certificate seeks to regularize it. So whilst it can't be enforced, so effectively it can't be refused if they can prove that it has been used for that purpose for that period of time. So it's the onus is on the applicant to provide evidence to support that, but it doesn't stop, as Catherine suggested, that a condition being put on it to say that it won't be sold, let or rented separately.
Okay. But it means that basically the planning authority just dropped the ball over the last 5-10 years and didn't enforce what had been agreed, and therefore it's free for all.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how it works. It's the same.
Okay.
If you build an extension and it's there for 4 years and nobody reports it or mend it, don't look at it and enforce it, then yeah, it becomes unenforceable against.
There are, on the planning application, there are 2 letters, one from the daughter saying that she was living there for 10 odd years, and then one from as you say, the granddaughter.
I suppose the question is that sufficient evidence to support the case? I mean, if they've made an
It's been certified by a lawyer, isn't
So
it?
it's an affidavit. So
Yeah.
yeah, then you
It's-
have to accept that.
I mean, difficult not to accept it, isn't it, really?
So actually, all we can debate in this room is, as Catherine suggested, do we
Whether
want to
we-
add that?
Conditions should be attached
Condition.
to remain
Yeah.
necessary to the main house.
Definitely agree.
Yeah.
Pretty much agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, it says on the last statement of who's living there now, we're both continually grateful of this accommodation as we're both on low income. There's so little accommodation in Frome.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with it at all.
I have looked at the plans and they are the window in the right
Can you go,
place.
yeah,
They're
go
there.
back to the plan.
Bedroom, window in kitchen, double doors in sitting room, council.
Where, on these, on your plan, where are the garage doors then?
They're at the bottom next to the shower room.
Right,
That's one,
okay.
and it's been bricked up behind, and then that's the other next to it.
Right, okay. Yeah, okay, great. It is what it is, yeah, absolutely. So yes, basically, I mean, do we object or not object or to this? There's nothing we can do apart from saying conditions should be attached that it remains
Yeah, I mean, an objection won't
necessary to the house.
have any impact at
any-
all because they've provided the evidence. But yeah, that you can ask for that condition to be included.
Right, so can we ask for the condition to be included that it remains ancillary to the main house?
Yes. Would you like to
Vote on that.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Philip.
Okay, the next one is another garage conversion. This is converting an existing garage, an attached garage this time, to a ground floor annex. This is Charles Road. So again, site plan, existing ground floor plan, and the proposed ground floor plan. The architect helpfully put them on one page, easy to look between them. And then they're not changing any of the upstairs, just the ground floor. And they're retaining a door, the door between the garage and the kitchen, which to me suggests that it's not going to be rented out. It's going to be for relatives or something, but that could be wrong. That's just conjecture. They will be retaining 3 spaces on the driveway, although I don't know if that'll be enough if that annex is in constant use. And I said that a condition should be attached, that it cannot be sold separate to the main dwelling. And they're the existing elevations and the proposed elevations, where they'll just swap the garage door for a window and a front door, I think. Yeah, door.
Can you go back to the floor plans?
Of course.
So is the annex is this bit
Yeah.
and this bit or
Yes.
this bit?
No, this whole
This whole, yeah. Right.
this bit. So rather than removing this wall is here, rather than removing it, they've just put doors in.
Yeah, what's interesting, sorry, just kicking it back.
Sorry.
This door here is blocked up.
Yes. I can't see.
Oh,
one.
we are making it self-contained.
Well, yeah, begs the question, doesn't it?
But then that door would be, if they didn't block that door up, it would either be in their bedroom leading onto the porch or the kitchen leading. So it'd be a bit weird.
Yeah, no, okay.
But then I can see.
Yeah, I suppose there is another door further up, isn't there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where they haven't blocked off that
Yeah.
door.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a kitchenette. That's definitely becoming self-contained.
Yes. They've said in the application it's self-contained. I don't know, maybe they haven't. No, they didn't, sorry.
But it's into an annex, so that implies that it is.
Yes. They haven't said what it'll be used for, though, whether it's relatives or.
similar to the previous one, isn't it?
It is, and again, I think it's creating additional living space. So as long as it's got that condition that says it's not going to be
Sold off,
separately,
no problem.
no problem with it.
I agree. Anyone else? No, yeah, happy with that? Yeah.
There's 3 spaces on the driveway.
Mm.
Can't need any more cars.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you voting? Have you?
Yep,
Yep.
Andy, thank you very much. Philip again. I'm going to go that side all night, aren't I?
Right. This one is a retrospective application for 15 at Shepherd's Barton in, I don't know what I was going to say, it's in Frome, they're all in Frome, obviously. It's listed building consent and a householder application. It says retrospective on the application, but I spoke to the architect and she said it's not a retrospective application. They started some preliminary work, and having said that, on the website decided that meant it was a retrospective application. So just to be clear, they haven't started any major building work. So this is the site location plan, and the existing plans. They're a bit funny because it's got a flying leasehold. So what is currently their dining room? Oh no, what is currently their kitchen, sorry, is in the next house. And then the house.
I love food.
Yeah, they're quite,
Wonderful position to be
yeah.
in.
So yeah,
Put your house down the kitchen, please.
yeah. So that house is now a flat, I think, and that kitchen's downstairs.
Doing lots of insulating, which is good.
Yes, they are. They're looking to retain a lot of original features and updating and improving previous works, and again updating the services and improving thermal performance. So it's very similar to the other one on Selwood Road we looked at.
Are they doing anything to the outside of the building?
They are, yeah, the lime mortar and remove the and then there's a garden room here on the existing elevation, and they're getting rid of that and swapping it for a deck because I think the garden drops down. I think you can see it on the existing, on the proposed elevation here. So there's a timber and glazed room, and it will just be replaced with decking and a balustrade. And as Mark said, repairing the exterior walls. Sorry, and those are the proposed plans. They're probably quite important there, moving the bathroom, better kitchen.
Service Society have to say.
I think they said.
No objection.
No
is that-
objection.
They've got pictures and it's pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah, it didn't look in a good state of repair currently, I think.
I mean, go for it. I think it's great that they're
Looks
doing
like
this
the
to
sort
an
of-
only old
should
building. Yeah.
Welcome this investment into.
Exactly. Quite, yeah. Yeah.
You're calling the garden room, by the way.
Yeah, that wooden, they described it as garden room.
Yeah, I
Uh,
have no issue
yeah.
whatsoever.
No object or support.
Obviously subject to conservation officer, because we can't see inside. I'm going to have that all night, aren't I?
I think that's the last conservation one, actually, so you needn't mention her name again. Oh, no. No.
I should just say subject to Zoe. Any other comments about that one? No? So no objection, subject to conservation officer? Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Next.
Is 25 High Street. It's a single-story rear extension, second floor rear dormer and roof lights. This one is within the conservation area, but it's not listed, so there's no listed building consent. There was permission in 2011 for an extension that didn't get built. The ward councillor is Michael Dunk, and he's expressed concern over the decking and doors at the first level, which I'll show you when I show you the plans, and has asked for the Conservation Office to make a visit. But there are precedent for big dormers and extensions on the street because the houses are small and they're not up to modern standards. So existing location and block plan, existing plans at the top, with the proposed plans underneath, I think this extension is too big. I think it doubles the mass of the building. Oops, I think it's out of scale. Well, I don't think it's out of scale. It's the exact same scale as the original building. I think, I'm not sure about this decking either, because I think that's potential for overlooking into other gardens. But other than that, I just think it's a bit big, and I think the materials should be matched with it being conservation area, because they're proposing white render. So that is the existing elevation and sections. And I think the current extension is quite sweet looking. And this is the proposed elevations. So it's wide, and it's a lot different to what is there now. That's the proposed block plan. Oh, okay, so you can see here as well the inclusion of the door with the decking out at the back. You can also see it in this section. Maybe they're not showing it. Yeah, so that's.
You've got it's the picture framing shop is kind of.
Do you want me to put it on Google Maps so you can?
There's another building there. I don't know what that is.
Anyone got any initial thoughts on this? I didn't have a problem with it initially. But
I don't know, in keeping with my general theme tonight, the size of it doesn't bother me if it's providing good accommodation personally. I'm sort of going against conservation things generally tonight. I don't know. I just feel if it's providing good accommodation, and it's but I don't like the idea of things being overlooked. I think that feels like it would be an issue.
Excuse me,
Catherine, what was the issue
where
with
is High Street? Where is High Street, Mark?
it's the lane that runs up past the Sun
Yeah.
on Catherine Hill?
Yeah.
And Catherine Street, turn right at the Sun. It leads up. Des and Stina used to live. It's a house next door to Des and Stina's.
You can
as was.
see Catherine Street's at the top.
Yeah, that block at the bottom there is the Sun pub.
Yeah, with you.
Top of the picture there. Catherine, what's Mick Dunk's thoughts about the decking? He thinks it'll overlook the neighbour's garden.
Yes, and he thinks it just looks odd in the elevation that it's a pitched roof with the flat deck like jutting into it. And he just wants the conservation officer to make a visit, just to have a look. Mainly concern over overlooking.
And your observation is the mass is too big.
I just think it's quite. I understand what Fiona's saying.
Has anyone objected?
No, I don't think so. I can double check, but I don't think anyone's.
Sorry, I'm miles away.
Will they actually have
Jane?
any garden area left other than the decking? Because generally, if it was a new house, unless it was a flat in a complex, I think we would be concerned about the lack of outside space.
But they've got decking. They've got outside.
It's not a lot of decking,
They
though,
have
is it?
left space for their bins, but they are taking it right up to the boundary, it looks like, with the doors opening out.
So that's no outside space.
And they must do.
But you've got doors opening, but what are they opening onto?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Next door's garden.
Like it.
I didn't.
Do with flying lease on
Another
that.
flying lease, I just don't know that. Oh,
Am I correct in thinking that the building, as you come up High Street from Catherine Street, so the building you're talking about is on the right. The next building along, which has quite a big mass, is that what was the Buffs Club? Yeah. So it's against that. I don't know if that's residential now or what. I don't know.
the first stage you come to, it's quite a big house, which belongs to mayors, councillors. So I know what that house is like. This one is between that house. It's a great big white wall on it where they used to put various political posters up. And then you've got this house, and then you've got the Buffs Club.
The point about the deck and the overlooking is that as you're coming up that slope, and it's only when you get to actually the Buffs Club that it's level, isn't it?
Yes.
So if the decking, if you're looking left from the decking, you're looking out over the roof of what was the Buff Club, because that fills that whole space. To the right, you would actually be overlooking that first house garden. From what I remember or understand of that garden, it doesn't sort of takes a left turn, so there's quite a bit of garden. So they'd be overlooking the whole of that area, and being able to look into houses along Catherine Street.
Can you get up? There's really, you can see it really clearly on satellite view.
I'm
Get it up.
trying, but it won't let me.
Helen Kay's kindly confirmed in the Q&A that yes, it's against the club. There's a wall at the back, French windows would open onto Des's old garden wall. Oh no, she's put a question there. Question mark there.
So it's filling in this space here, what I understand. And then that's a garden, so maybe it's that, so opening onto a wall?
Right, for some reason I can't open Google Maps. It's just searching my computer.
Does anyone know what that building is? That big grey building?
Mark will know.
Mark? It's like David's going picture framing shop is just in front of it, but that's the building that would be affected by it. It looks like it's some form of commercial space.
No.
Right, 25.
This is where very strange. This is
Okay.
yeah.
The flats, that big grey building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are private flats.
It would look directly over them, the decking then.
No, it's over there.
What? Let me see where it is.
We've got two things, haven't we? One is the extension, the second is the decking.
What about the high street is this?
25.
25. I'm trying to show you, but
Right, everybody at the computer in the place is looking at it.
yeah, but now I want
Don't worry
to.
about it, Catherine.
I want to look and know. I don't understand why I can't open Google Maps and why it's not. No.
It's over there, isn't it? Yeah.
Should have got to have a
Probably
look.
pouring down the rain. Though. That's the only problem. 3 minutes, evidently.
Apologies to anybody online. We are we're all concentrating, trying to work out exactly where it's going. So please bear with us.
I don't know why anyone want to get rid of their garden. That's what I'm now baffled by.
It says courtyard, so I imagine they don't have a garden, so maybe they don't see it as a loss.
I guess what I'm guessing is that it's probably as a courtyard, it's probably very dark, and they probably don't use it because it seems like it's quite hemmed in and doesn't get much light. And they're proposing roof lights, aren't they? And
It's coming back to is there significant overlooking from the decking to neighbouring properties, and we can't.
We can't tell. I mean, I think it would,
that from here without going into the property itself.
yeah.
Can we?
So I think it would be a case of asking the case officer to double check
Yeah.
on site if there's
Yeah.
any potential overlooking.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say that for whatever reason, they have decided that they're going to effectively fill in the whole
that
of that
garden.
garden space.
Yeah.
And then to have some outside space is to put decking in, but that decking will be at a much higher level.
Looks like it.
Garden.
Yeah.
So therefore that needs to be,
But we can't tell that
no.
from here looking at.
The only thing we know is that the ground does slope away.
Yeah.
As I said before, towards 26, it would overlook 26,
Mm.
their garden and an outbuilding, and also potentially overlooking, well, it would overlook the houses then on Catherine Street or the rear of the houses on Catherine Street.
Can I just move away from the decking conversation to the rest of the extension that they want to put up? And do we have any views on that? Because they're extending the rest of the house quite significantly, Lisa.
I don't know if this is relevant at all. Jane, this is one for you. If there was a fire in the front of the house, no rear access, is that an issue?
It would be something that building regs would take into account, I think, potentially.
Don't think so, as long as your stairs don't exit into a kitchen.
But if there was a fire in the front and the only way that you could get out was the back and it doesn't open up into anything.
Well, oh, you mean if they did the extension and they can't
Yes.
get out? Yeah, that would.
Sorry?
Do you want a decking?
Yeah.
That would be a consideration.
Get a fire engine down there. People park both sides of the road, and it's just not wide enough to get fire tonight. If you walk down there now,
You can get a fire engine down.
you wouldn't.
Yeah, it would be, I believe, a building regs consideration.
Rather than
And
Okay.
yeah, getting out on the decking's not necessarily going to be classed as a means of escape because you're still on top of the building.
Sorry, Andy.
I've been sort of thinking this over while we've been talking about it, and I'm coming around to that point of view that says it's their property, they're willing to invest to make it more livable for themselves. If what they're doing is legal and doesn't infringe anybody else's right to privacy, then I don't have a problem with it.
The John Nelson principle. Thanks, Andy. Any other? I'm with him. Fiona? No?
No,
No?
I was just going to say, I agree with Andy. I think we're sort of looking at it as a garden space, but I think when you look at it, I imagine it's very dark and enclosed and probably isn't usable as it is now. If they can make that land usable, I don't have an issue with it. The only issue I do have is the overlooking.
Right. Totally agree. Anyone else? No. So I think it's just,
providing.
so, you know, it's,
Yeah,
we want to confirm that the overlooking, so I don't know how we word that with the case officer.
Providing there's no overlooking and subject to conservation officer as per usual.
Oh, is it? Consummate? Yeah, please.
No. Oh, and have you voted on that before I?
No, we're just about to.
Right, no overlooking.
Great. Someone could propose that, please. Yeah, thank you. You want to second it? I'll second it. Mark? Thanks, Hannah.
Next one, and I believe the last one, just double check, is the courthouse, 18th Street, and my laptop's still not working. Hang on.
This is the old pet shop, isn't it?
So it's again location plan. It's a little extension. It's took down the side of Marks and Spencer's. Hang on. Can we see it now? Yeah, thank you.
One behind the iron gates, isn't it?
Yes.
Where the Thai restaurant is, isn't it? and all that?
Yeah, they're currently underpinning it, I think.
Okay.
So these are the existing ground floor plans, which I don't believe they're changing, and the existing first floor plans, which they are making changes to. They want to extend this flat here on the right-hand side above the extension and raise the roof of the extension to do that. Sorry. So as you can see, they want to just make it a bigger flat. In the design and access statement, it said they are concerned about condensation and things making a studio flat damp.
Even the Civic Society were quite positive in their response, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were, weren't they?
I think, unfortunately, because it's been through so many iterations, whatever's worthy of conservation internally is gone. So I don't think there's much to say on that. I think we're best looking at the internal as if it wasn't a grade listed building, unfortunately, but the external, not too much has changed. So maybe I'd bear that in mind.
Just be careful of the tree.
Be careful of the tree, but I don't know if the underpinning works would have already disturbed that. And I also don't, it's a building regs issue, not a planning issue. But if they're adding more rooms on top of that extension that they're already having underpinned, is that going to put more pressure on that, like the weight of it? But I'm sure building regs, civil engineer will have go out and double check, hopefully. So I didn't really have any issues with it. I think the parapet that they're proposing to remove, which is here on the elevation. Oh, sorry, there's a better, you can see it better here. They're proposing to remove this parapet, and I think that should be retained and raised up in line with the new roof line, because it disguises the fact that this is red brick and this is stone. And if they're not doing that, I don't understand if they're going to have like a band of red brick at the top, which will look awful, or if they're hoping it'll just merge. And I also think if they're concerned about condensation from kitchen, etc., in this flat, then the flat on the other side with the smaller kitchen should have a door to prevent the same thing happening there. But I don't think that's really a planning concern either.
So it's the architect in you coming out, isn't it?
Well, I just think, I'm just saying, if you're doing one bit of work, you may as well just put the other fire door on. It's not.
I'm confused. So this is above the Thai kitchen.
Yes.
But the iron gates, the first floor is now taken up with shops as well, isn't it? But on here it's saying they're flats.
I don't know.
As you go up, the iron gates is now.
They have they've got a previous permission in place to turn it all into flats. There are certainly shops on the ground level.
There are a couple of spaces on the first floor as well.
Yeah. So I think what they're doing is they're showing the existing plan being the plan that has permission, but not the existing plan is actually how it's currently being used. So I think what they're doing is they're amending the previous consent for flats. So yes, technically it's not right to say that's the existing floor plans. They are amending that application.
Because Thai Kitchen are moving as well, aren't they? They're closing down.
Yeah, they're closing. So then what's happening at Iron Gates? Are they going to change the use of the top floor? Because they've only just had people move in there, that first floor.
So they've got permission for it all to be flats. So if I guess that's up to the property owner. If they decide that they want to convert them all into flats, then yes, then those businesses will would have to relocate.
Thanks. Does anyone have a problem with this? No.
Would someone propose it? Oh.
Hang on.
I don't know if I have a problem with it or not. No, it's fine.
Sure.
It's difficult.
Mm.
It doesn't feel like the right location for flats. It doesn't feel like the right location for flats, but also it is still accommodation. So, and it's already got, yeah, so why am I saying anything really? Like,
And I think that, you know, it's the internals of the building, even though is it listed?
Yeah. Grade 2, I
Have probably
think.
been wrecked, haven't they, over the years? I mean,
looking a lot better since Iron Gates took over. Like, there's some lovely.
externally it looks very nice.
I think we should capture Catherine's point about getting that balustrade to hide the red brick, though, if we can.
Yeah, I can,
Can you put
yeah,
something
I
down
can
like
write that. Yep.
Thank you. So no objection, but just we would like to see.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Done. Right. Great, you're done. I don't know why my laptop's not working, but.
You all right with that? Make sure you're awake. Thanks.
And then we need to vote on all the balance that we've not
We do.
commented
Do
on.
we, have we got to talk about that other one or? We don't. Right, okay, great. So if we could just vote that all the other comments are as per Catherine's notes. Thank you. Someone propose that. Thanks, Lisa. Great. I've lost the script. I have no idea when the next meeting is. Thank you, everybody.
In 3 weeks' time.
It's just basically, talk. When is it? There we go. 20th of March. Thank you. Date your next meeting, 30th of March. 30th of March. What's something else is going on the 30th of March? I'm not sure what it is now. Yeah, date of the next meeting is the 30th of March, which is after the last minute meeting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
That'll be on British summertime.
That will be on British summertime. Yeah.